Explain to everybody out there who maybe have missed it what's going on with Mbappe and why you think this is happening.
Yeah, I mean, what's not going on with the French national team at this moment in time? I mean, there's so much up in the air. So, with regards to to Mbappe, we know, since his contract negotiations with PSG and the possibility to sign for Real Madrid as a free agent before he ultimately ended up staying in Paris. Image rights was a very important issue to Kylian Mbappe. He sees himself as, the modern footballer, a new trailblazer, and basically doesn't want his name associated with anything that could sort of have negative connotations. So no junk food, no betting, basically all the fun things associated with football, I guess many would say. But in any case, Mbappe is very keen to sort of distance his name from that. So back in March, we already had, sort of a close run-in between him and the French Football Federation over some of the sponsors of the national team. And then again, at the beginning of this international break, you've got Mbappe once more refusing, to take part in any of the scheduled, commercial shoots with the partners of the French national team ahead of the Qatar World Cup. And basically, the French Football Federation this time have reacted and said, okay, we will draw up another charter, which is basically more image conscious towards players like Mbappe. So that's sort of one of the many things that is going on surrounding the French Football Federation at the moment. Second, you've got some very, very controversial allegations coming out about sexual misconduct, pretty poor behavior at the very top of the federation. There have been reportedly cover-ups for the past 4 decades or so, of sexual misconduct within, the youth ranks, and it's all pretty horrible reading. And then on top of that, you've got the Paul Pogba controversy, which has now seen his older brother Matthias, basically, incarcerated. Sort of by precaution, while they try to establish some of the facts regarding this attempted blackmail against Paul Pogba. You've got a number of key players, Deschamps' trusted lieutenants on the pitch, out injured or out of form. And also, Deschamps knows that he's got Zinedine Zidane breathing down his neck, looking at this job, thinking, well, I might have a crack at this job after the World Cup if things don't go well. So a lot, sort of in and around the French national team at this moment in time, but it's never a dull moment surrounding Les Bleus.
Yeah, not much dull moment. Go ahead. Wow.
I thought England was bad, but that's just fantastic, listening to see how traumatic it is in France right now. Jesus Christ, where do you start? Where do you go after that?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I mean, obviously, a lot of news, and JJ, you're all over it there, being based in France, and you get to find out some dirty details maybe that's not being made public right now. And it's an interesting reading. Obviously, your article on CBS Sports was terrific as well about the Mbappe situation. Thank you so much for that and the great work you do. But I must admit, this is something that is not great for France, Nigel. I mean, let's touch upon the Mbappe situation right now before we go into anything else. Kylian Mbappe, his image rights, you can understand and respect him as a human being able to control his own situation, his own branding. But does that frustrate the other players? If you're in that group of players, if you're in a squad going to a World Cup, Kylian Mbappe doesn't want to be a part of pictures that everybody else has been made to take part on. You think this is a complete distraction in the group?
It's funny that you say that, Ian, because for me, obviously, before John gave us the real scoop, was in modern society, I'll say now the tea in what was going on in France. I was going to say, when you look at it, let's just football-wise, just briefly, when you look at the squad, the experience, the talent that France has, and the young talent coming through, they are phenomenal for the players and the ability they possess. You would say, hands down, they should win this World Cup, really and truly, just because I don't see a more talented team than France. Probably I would say Brazil you can throw in there now with the new Brazil that we're seeing. Mm-hmm. But I would always say, the problem that I would always say about France is this. There is always going to be some kind of drama or soap opera in the French national team where it's whether they can all get along for however long duration the World Cup goes on, where they can be successful. If no one wants to have a diva moment, if no one wants to be head man in charge or star of the show, France should win if they can get together. That is the problem you're going to have with France. And I think that Mbappe situation is just going to be something clearly that's not going to sit well with other players. Yes, he is probably one of the world's best football players, one of the world's best paid football players. But when you come to represent your nation, there's some things that come with it. You have to put that aside. This isn't Paris Saint-Germain. This is France. Do it properly to respect and represent your country. That's what comes with it. So there has to be somewhere along the line, I think, for me personally, where the French FA have to say, right, we need to put a stop to this. Because if he's not willing to take that loss or to be, to understand he's representing France, then drop him. Because then if he's not playing for the national team, yes, he's still Mbappe, but it's not still going to look good for his image if you can't be picked for the national team, because they are not short on talent. That's a reality, but they have to put a fine line and stamp the authority that you're here to represent your national team. Whatever you do for Paris Saint-Germain, that's completely different. So it's quite interesting for me, and I always felt that would be the situation when it comes to France. It's always going to be about that diva-esque situation. You look at the whole thing with Pogba right now, and then Mbappe again. There's always something in the French dressing room that I feel can hold them back.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one, Nigel, and I think that's an interesting point. I think, JJ, we have seen the French Federation react very quickly to this situation and sort of given in a little bit to Mbappe's demands. And in many ways, I think rightfully so, because we're living in a different time now. It's not just a power play for these nationalities or associations. We're starting to see players being more powerful within their brand and their own marketing than they are for any club team, than they are for any national team. I respect Nigel's opinion completely, but as you see by the swift reaction from the French Football Federation, player power is something real right here.
Well, I can tell you that the French Football Federation weren't as quick to respond to the allegations of sexual misconduct, but I'll leave that by the by for this episode. But just before we sort of move on to deal with that, I've got a really interesting stat to throw at you guys. 7 of the current players in this France squad were not even professionals when France won the World Cup in 2018. 7. I know there's been a lot of injuries, unavailability, but you've got guys like Adrien Truffert, Benoit Badiashile, William Saliba, you've got Youssouf Fofana, Randall Kolo Nigel's favourite, Chouameni, and Eduardo Camavinga as well. Those guys had not kicked a ball professionally at senior level when France were crowned world champions just over 4 years ago. So, that is, that just goes to illustrate, how much, depth there is, how much talent there is coming through. And it's in pretty much every position across the pitch as well. Now, going back to the sort of issue of Mbappe, does Mbappe risk being dropped, or are the French Football Federation right to prioritize him? We know that Kylian Mbappe is going to be the star man of the French national team for at least the next 10 years, if not more. So are they right to sort of build the squad and sort of the image of the national team around him? I mean, I think so to a certain extent, because you cannot overlook talent like that, especially when he performs, because if he can replicate the form that we've seen from him at club level over the past 18 months, he has the ability to carry a team on his back at times. The thing that I think now is the main question for Didier Deschamps and the French Football Federation is, do you sort of persevere with what has been a winning formula in the past, but is no longer a winning formula? We saw in Euro 2020, Deschamps' tried and tested method, of falling back on the guys that he's trusted in the past no longer works. I mean, some of those guys, are going on mid-30s. I mean, Lloris is still a fine goalkeeper, obviously captain of the national team, but he's not getting any younger. Same goes for Giroud, and you've got Griezmann, who really bent out of form. He's in his early 30s as well. Rafael Varane as well looks a shadow of the player that he was back in 2018, despite moving to Manchester United for greener pastures from Real Madrid. So it is a really interesting moment for the French national team. We'll get onto it in a bit, I'm sure. I am not really that high on them coming into this tournament as favourites. I understand why people have them painted that way, but I think that there are major issues. I think that Didier Deschamps has moved away from the formula that he was successful with, and I actually ultimately think this will be his last international tournament.